Welcome to the last session on Hegelian philosophy, Absolute Idealism of Hegel. During the early part of the 19th century, the German philosophical world witnessed a stream of metaphysical speculations which have occurred in the long history of Western philosophy. It is characterized by a succession of systems of original interpretations of reality and of human life and history. With a great German idealistic, one can find a superb confidence in the power of the human reason and in the scope of philosophy. Looking on reality as a self manifestation of infinite reason, they thought that the life of self expression of this reason could be to retracted in philosophical reflection. Among the great German idealists like Fichte, Schelling and Schleiermacher, it was Hegel who was so prominent. Idealism is the philosophical doctrine that reality is somehow mind correlative or mind coordinated, that the real objects constituting the external world are not independent of cognizing minds. The doctrine creates on the conception that reality as we understand it reflects the workings of mind. A dispute has long raged within the idealistic camp over whether the mind at issue in such idealistic formulas was a mind emplaced outside of or behind nature, or a nature pervasive power of rationality of some sort, or the collective impersonal social mind of people in general, or simply the distributive collection of individual minds. By the term absolute is meant the one independent reality of which all things are an expression. Kant used the term absolute to characterize what is unconditionally valid. Schelling introduced the term for the unconditioned ground of subject and object. Hegel defined the absolute as spirit, the logical necessity that embodies itself in the world in order to achieve self knowledge and freedom during the course of history. The absolute of Hegel. For Hegel, the subject matter of philosophy is indeed the absolute, but the absolute is the totality, reality as a whole, the universe. Hegel says, philosophy is concerned with the true and the true is the whole. Again, this totality or whole is infinite life, a process of self development. The absolute is the process of its own becoming, the circle which presupposes its end as its purpose and has its end as its beginning. It becomes concrete or actual only by its development and through its end. In other words, reality is a teleological process. It is essentially a result. If one looks on the whole process as the self unfolding of an essence, the actualization of an eternal idea, one can see that it is the term or end of the process which reveals what the absolute really is. It is a truism that in a teleological process, it is the teleos or the end which shows its nature, its meaning. Philosophy must take the form of a systematic understanding of this teleological process. The absolute is the subject and its object is itself. In that case, it is thought which thinks itself, self-thinking thought. This is to say that the absolute is spirit, the infinite self-luminous or self-conscious subject. For Hegel, the supreme definition for absolute is that it is spirit. In fact, Aristotle characterizes God as self-thinking thought, but Hegel here does not think of a transcendent deity which he uses the expression. For Hegel, the absolute is a process of self-reflection. Reality comes to know itself. It does so in and through the human spirit. Nature is a necessary precondition of human consciousness in general. Nature provides the sphere of the objective without which the sphere of the subjective cannot exist, but both are moments in the life of the absolute. In the sphere of human consciousness, the absolute returns to itself, that is, as spirit. The philosophical reflection of humanity is the absolute's self-knowledge, that is, the history of philosophy is the process by which the absolute comes to think itself. Philosophical reason comes to see the whole history of the cosmos and the whole history of man as a self-unfolding of the absolute. In fact, this insight is the absolute's knowledge of itself. To say that the absolute is self-thinking thought is to affirm the identity of the ideal and the real of subjectivity and objectivity, but this is an identity in difference. Spirit sees itself in nature. It sees nature as the objective manifestation of the absolute, a manifestation which is a necessary condition for its own existence. In other words, the absolute knows itself as a totality, as the whole process of its becoming. But at the same time, it sees the distractions between the phases of its own life. Absolute idealism. Absolute idealism holds that the matter is not mind, but mind remains foundational to matter. Here, mind means the self-conscious mind which becomes articulate in its gradual manifestations and graded creation through matter, life and human mind. But matter has been posited by the mind, so that by a struggle with an opposition of the matter, mind may become aware of itself. In fact, the word idealism is ambiguous. It may mean ideaism of idealism. The term is used in both the sense. The message of idealism was given in the most finished form in the language most appropriate for its expression by Plato. According to Plato, ideas are alone real, and they are hierarchically arranged with the idea of the good at the apex. The ideas of the good draws all things towards itself in the same way in which a thing of beauty attracts its admirers. As the idea of the good can be interpreted as value and ideal, the idealism of Plato is both ideaism and idealism. Following the thoughts of Plato, Aristotle has called the idea at the apex as actus purus, the form of forms. For Aristotle, the highest form is the indwelling spirit and reason of the world which molds all things. Hence, in the philosophy of Aristotle, the idealistic and idealistic trends have been intimately welded together. Hegel, who has presented absolute idealism, was greatly influenced by Aristotle. Ever since the time of Plato and Aristotle, idealism has been a most important stream of thought in the Western world. It was propounded afresh by Spinoza, Leibniz and Berkeley. But Hegel himself remains indebted to Kant for deriving the key concepts of his idealism. Kant's speculation has contributed to the rise of idealism much more than the philosophy of any other modern thinker. The synthetic unity of a perception is the logical condition and is the implication in scientific knowledge. The human mind in the first instance and the synthetic unity of a perception in the final form is the key to the understanding of nature for Kant. Since the time of Kant, the self-conscious mind has become the basal category of idealism in maintaining the primacy of spirit over matter. Viewed in the historical perspective, the idealism of Hegel is as much Aristotelian as it is Kantian. Here, idealism is a metaphysics. One thing is certain, that metaphysics is not science, and metaphysics deals with the reality as a whole. There is the theory that metaphysics is as natural as breathing, and the questions of having no metaphysics does not arise. This is the doctrine of metaphysics a priori, that is, man cannot do without some sort of metaphysics. Bradley and Hegel have accepted this doctrine of metaphysics a priori. Hegel's metaphysical position may be described as absolute idealism. For him, everything is idea. It is the reality. The ultimate reality, idea or Geist or spirit is absolute, and the aim of philosophy is to discover this absolute idea. Hegel regards philosophy as the work of reflective reason in order to have an insight into the idea which is the true, the eternal, the absolutely potent, that it reveals itself in the world, and that nothing is revealed in the world except this idea, its grandeur and its honor. Philosophy is a rational insight which follows from reflection on the whole happenings. History and science are concerned with accidental and temporal processes. In contrast, philosophy is the science of necessary thoughts of their essential connection and systems, the knowledge of what is true and therefore eternal, imperishable. Philosophy works through intuition and speculative reason. The nature of philosophy is holistic. In fact, Hegel looks at the world as a whole which is guided by the absolute idea. The absolute idea is a system of ideas of the whole universe from the dust to the distant stars. It means that the whole universe consists of ideas which are interrelated in a coherent rational system, that is, the reality or idea works out itself in matter, life and mind. Hence, the subject matter of philosophy is the world as a whole. Theory of concrete universal. Both Plato and Aristotle have maintained the sole reality of ideas or forms, and that these ideas are found in a system. Hegel has made this theory of ideas consistent by advancing the theory of concrete universal. The theory follows from the viewpoint of metaphysics as an all comprehensive study of reality as a whole. Plato seemed to have thought of the ideas arranged hierarchically in a system. The difficulty about the mutual relationship between the ideas is that one cannot be organically related with the rest. The reason for this is that the ideas of Plato, according to Hegel, are empty abstractions. They have been reached by explaining away the particular qualities from the objects. For example, ideas of whiteness has been abstracted from white rose, white mind, white snow and so on. But here one ignores the smell, smoothness or tastiness of these particular objects. But any concrete thing consists of numerous details. Once we omit the details to reach the ideas of whiteness, we can no longer deduce the white things characterized by a number of particularizing qualities which constitute them. In order to arrange the ideas in a system, they must be concrete. In the first instance, a concrete universal is not 1. A concept which depends on human intellect, 2. Nor is it the idea of Plato, for the idea of Plato is an abstract universal. A concrete universal has been described as a living organism where the particulars derive their meaning and functions from the whole, and the whole is also sustained by its parts. An organic system is to be distinguished from a machine. A machine is a whole of parts, but parts can exist apart from the whole. For instance, the spring, the dial, etc. are all parts of a watch, but they can all exist apart from a complete watch. However, in an organism, the interrelation between the parts and the whole is very deeper, since the parts live through the whole and the whole is sustained by the parts. Hegel looks at the whole world as one reality which is guided and sustained by the absolute idea. The absolute ideas is a system of all ideas and is the indwelling spirit of the whole universe, and works itself out in matter, life and mind. Here one is reminded of the famous statement of Hegel, the real is rational and the rational is real. It means that the whole universe consists of ideas which are interrelated in a coherent rational system. Only in this system one has to understand the relation of one element with another and the whole. Without the notion of concrete universal, the idealistic metaphysics and its maintenance would be inexplicable. The concept of reality. For Hegel, reality is that which is eternal, unchangeable and a systematic whole. He calls reality absolute, idea, spirit or Geist. Hegel would maintain that existence and reality, appearance and reality cannot be separated. They are opposed and yet identical. The key concept of Hegel is identity in difference or difference in identity. Both existence and reality have meaning. For Hegel, ideas are not isolated. He subscribes to the doctrine of concrete universals, that is, an organic whole of universals as their constant elements. This whole is called the absolute. According to the absolute idealism of Hegel, there is only one reality. This one reality is an all-inclusive and self-consistent whole. The principle of Hegel is not one or many, but many in one or one in many. It is not the abstract idealism of Spinoza which emphasizes the one at the cost of the many, nor is it Leibniz which accepts many at the cost of one. Reality for Hegel is one of which the many are its integral parts. Hegel agrees with Plato in regarding the absolute reality as the system of ideas, but he tries to advance upon Plato both by further analyzing the notion of ideas and by clarifying the notion of interrelation between the ideas. Hegel is not satisfied with showing that reality is idea one, but also adds that the ideas are organically related. It is possible to deduce all other ideas from any one given idea. In this system of ideas, there is always a logical reason as to why the first idea is first and the last idea is last. A concrete idea is a whole which includes all particular instances under it as its essential parts. As the idea is not empirical, we can also call it a category following Kant. Again, Hegel holds that reality is in a process of logical and spiritual evolution. The world is moving and the thought is moving, and all these are in a process of evolution. Thus, there occurs evolution in the objective world and the subjective world. Hegel says that contradiction is the root of all life. Without negation, there would be no life, growth or development. Every negation is a new determination. Thus, one can find in Hegel a dynamic conception of reality as contrasted to the static one. The absolute spirit. For Hegel, the final motive of all culture and philosophy must be to find a definition of the absolute spirit and to understand its content. All science and religion have striven to reach this point. The absolute in itself is spirit, but it is potential rather than actual spirit. The absolute for itself, nature, is spirit, but it is self-alienated spirit. In religious language, it is God in his otherness, as Hegel puts it. The philosophy of spirit has three main parts. The first two parts treat of the finite spirit, while the third part deals with the absolute spirit. The first part of the subjective spirit is again divided into three. Under the heading of anthropology, he treats of the soul as sensing and feeling subject. From this, he passes to the phenomenology of consciousness. Here, the subjective spirit is confronted by an object. First, by an object regarded as external to and independent of the subject, then in self-consciousness by itself. Finally, the subject is raising to the universal self-consciousness in which it recognizes other selves as both distinct from and one with itself. The absolute in itself objectifies or expresses itself in nature. So, also spirit in itself objectify or express itself, that is, the sphere of the objective spirit. The first phase of objective spirit is the sphere of right. The individual subject must give himself an external sphere of freedom. He does this by expressing his will in the realm of material things. This leads to the question of morality. The concepts of right and morality are unified on a higher level of the concepts of ethical life. The three moments of ethical substance are the family, civil society and the state. The dialectical development of the state is a conceptual development. According to Hegel, absolute spirit is thus the synthesis of subjective spirit and objective spirit on a higher plane. It is subjectivity and objectivity in one, for it is spirit knowing itself. In the spheres of subjective and objective spirit, we are concerned with the finite spirit, first in its inwardness, then in its self manifestation in family and the state. In the sphere of absolute spirit, the infinite spirit knows itself as infinite. In other words, the infinite exists in and through the finite. For Hegel, absolute spirit is the life of the absolute's developing self knowledge. It does so at three main levels, those of art, religion and philosophy. First, the absolute can be apprehended under the sensuous form of beauty in the work of art, then in religion and family, conceptually through speculative philosophy. Thus, it can be said that man's knowledge of the absolute and the absolute knowledge of itself are two aspects of the same reality. Now, let us summarize. According to Hegel, the task of philosophy is to construct the life of the absolute. That is to say, it must exhibit the rational dynamic structure and the teleological process of the cosmic reason in nature and human spirit. It culminates in the absolute's knowledge of itself. It is not, of course, a question of philosophy trying to do better the work accomplished by empirical science or by history. Rather, it is philosophy's task to make clear the basic teleological process. Nature and human spirit are the fields in which an eternal idea or an eternal essence manifests itself. That is, one can have the picture of the eternal idea or logos manifesting itself in nature and in spirit. The life of the absolute thus comprises three main phases: the logical idea or concept or notion, nature and spirit. The system of philosophy according to Hegel will fall into three main parts: logic, which is metaphysics in the sense that it studies the nature of the absolute in itself; the philosophy of nature and the philosophy of spirit. The three parts together form the philosophical construction of the life of the absolute. Logic studies the absolute in itself, the philosophy of nature studies the absolute for itself, and the philosophy of spirit studies the absolute in and for itself. Together, they constitute the complete construction of the life of the absolute. Philosophy must of course exhibit this life in conceptual form. If the life of the absolute is a necessary process of self actualization, this necessity must be reflected in the philosophical system. But if we say that philosophy must exhibit the life of the absolute in conceptual form, a difficulty at once arises. The absolute is the identity in difference of the infinite and the finite, as of the one and the many. But concepts of finite and infinite seems to be mutually exclusive. If philosophy operates with clearly defined concepts, how can it possibly reflect the life of the absolute? In Hegel's view, this difficulty arises on the level of understanding. Understanding is an inadequate instrument for the development of speculative philosophy. But if understanding is taken in a wider sense, philosophy is understanding. Now, there are few assignments for you to work out. 1. Hegel's idealism is both idealism and idealism. Examine. 2. Philosophy must exhibit the life of the absolute in its conceptual form, critically evaluate. 3. Examine how Hegel differs from Plato in his concept of reality. 4. Give an account of Hegel's concept of understanding. 5. Hegel's philosophy, though highly theoretical in its nature, has immense practical applications. Examine. You can refer the following books for your further study. 1. Copleston Frederick S. J. A History of Philosophy, New York, Image Books, 1965. 2. Tilly Frank, History of Philosophy, Allahabad Central Publishing, 1992. 3. Wallace William, Prologma to the Study of Hegel's Philosophy, Oxford Clarendon Press, 1984. 4. Stephen John Wright, A History of Modern Philosophy, New York, Macmillan, 1964. 5. Mahasi Y, A Critical History of Western Philosophy, New Delhi, Motilal, 1994. Now, we reach the end of Hegelian philosophy sessions. Thank you for watching this program. Let us meet in another session with another topic.